On my way home from work yesterday, I got broadsided in my newer vehicle that I was just telling you about, how uncomfortable I am having a car payment. Well, this is why. Because if I was driving an old junker and got broadsided, I wouldn't much care as long as the car still drove. But now I've just lost value in my car, and hopefully insurance, I don't know what it is with police reports these days. They don't give you the report right away. Like 30 years ago, you used to get a piece of paper and you could tell exactly what the report said right away. Now, the police officer just hands you his business card with a number on it. I don't know if it's that way where you're at, but at least in my state, in my county, because it was a sheriff, it wasn't a state police or a city or village or anything like that. He just gave me a business card and it has a report number on it, and I'm supposed to call and get the report. So, I mean, there was no real discussion when it happened. He asked me what happened, and I said I was getting ready to turn at this intersection. This guy failed to stop, and he hit me on my rear side panel. And I don't know what the guy said to him, but now here we are the next day, and I've got to call and find out what this report says. There were a couple other things when that happened that were really frustrating to me, like cell phone coverage, cell phone carrier issues. I couldn't reach my husband. It wound up not being a problem because, again, I don't know where you're at in your state or how your insurance is, your auto insurance, but fortunately for me, I at least had the policy ID on an expired insurance certificate in the glove box. My husband thought he put, later when I talked to him, he said he thought he put the updated insurance certificate in the glove box, but we couldn't find it when he looked later, and I couldn't find it when the accident first happened. But the officer was able to look up the policy number at least and see that we had current coverage. I must have tried calling my husband 20 or 30 times while I sat there waiting for the officer to show up, because I thought that I needed a current up-to-date certificate of insurance, and I wasn't that far from home. So I figured if I could get in touch with my husband, he could print up a certificate really quick that shows we have coverage and run it down to me. But it wasn't necessary, obviously, and it wound up being okay. But it's like, today I'm waking up and I'm still, quote unquote, recovering from the frustration over that happening. Not to mention my car obviously being damaged now, and the last 2 days I have forgotten to run my errand on my lunch break at work that I've wanted to do, and that is to put together Easter basket of sorts for my older son in college and ship it to him, because I always do something for my boys, something special for Easter. And I don't know what you guys do to celebrate Easter, but Easter's a pretty big deal in our home, as far as like my boys, usually we try to get them a gift of some sort, and we put goodies together in a basket, and they hunt through the house for the basket and the candy, and we color eggs and stuff like that. But now that my older son is away at college, he's not going to be part of the Easter celebration this weekend. So I wanted to ship him some goodies and like an Easter basket of sorts at college. But I forgot to do that. Now today's Wednesday, and I'm going to still ship it to him, but I don't think it's going to get to him in time for Easter. And hopefully I'll remember to do that today on my lunch. I feel like a complete doofus for forgetting the last couple of days. And so you can tell how my day's starting out. I'm just frustrated overall. And then the icing on the cake was yet another trigger, which I would have never, ever expected this. But I'm just being forthright with you. So this year, 2024, is the 50th anniversary of the first season of Little House on the Prairie, the show from the 70s. In 1974, they first started filming that show. And when I was a little girl, that was my favorite show. I grew up on Little House on the Prairie. And I know that may sound dorky to some of you, but I'm okay with that. part of the reason why I loved that show, though, was the endearing, is that even a word? I don't know. The lovely, lovely families and the wholesome lessons that were in that show. That was a fantasy escape for me. I never knew this about myself either, by the way. I never knew that I loved Little House on the Prairie so much because that was my ideal family life, where everybody supported and encouraged each other, and they may have spats, but they always come back together, and they have always got each other's backs. And, you know, despite any struggles or setbacks, they all still wind up rising above. And it's just a really good, wholesome show for kids to watch growing up. And it definitely was for me. But as I was watching some of the news coverage about what was happening in Simi Valley, California, about the reunion and some of the actors and the interviews and activities and stuff that they have going on for the fans, I found myself not just getting sentimental. I found myself reacting emotionally, and I started sobbing, watching and recollecting some of the feelings that I felt as a child watching these episodes of this program, Little House on the Prairie, and how lonely that show made me feel, and how isolated, and how I felt there was so much wrong in my family, and how I wish my family was just a little bit more loving and a little bit more caring. And it's just, I don't know if that show affected anybody else in my family the way it affected me. But I was a very lonely child. And I was very different from everyone else in my family. I could see a lot of what was wrong in our family growing up, but there was nothing I could do about it. I was powerless to stop anything. I was at the mercy of others. And so as I grew up, I became a fighter. I told you about that in the abuse series. I resented so much. And I became a teenager who was very mouthy and very obstinate and just difficult. And I did everything my parents told me not to do. I mean, well into college, but I was lost. I had no idea. It wasn't like I really knew myself back then. I was completely lost and had no guidance, no reference point, no leadership, no love. I should say no loving guidance, you know. So watching those little video clips this morning about Little House on the Prairie, for years and years, I have recollected those shows, and I even have the DVDs and the movies with fondness. When I've watched them, I've been very touched. It was only this morning, perhaps it was my mood that the day began with, perhaps the stars aligned just properly. I don't know what the circumstances were. It could very simply be what I have mentioned before in this channel, that my counselor once told me that things will come to you, memories will be recalled, and feelings will be recalled the more you heal, the closer you get to the point where you're free. And I have felt for several months now that I've been on the right path and healing quite a bit of stuff from my past. And I shouldn't be surprised that yet again another childhood experience and significant part of my past caused this kind of triggering reaction in me. And I cried and cried and cried. And I was like, wow, that was powerful. That was pretty heavy. That was pretty serious for just a silly little show from 50 years ago. But it was enough. It was enough. And now, because it's just happened like half hour, 45 minutes ago, and I'm just arriving to work, I've got to go into work and sit with this, and hopefully it'll be quiet today so that I can spend a little bit of time, at least in my own head, trying to sort out what exactly I was feeling and what happened and what caused it. I'm sure it has something to do with my loneliness as a child, my feelings of neglect and abandonment from my family, and the trauma and the hurt they caused me. And probably has a lot to do with when I was a child, I wish that had been my family. Kind of along the lines of the Grizzly Adams thing I told you about a while ago. That show was another show. I wish Grizzly Adams was my dad when I was a kid, because he was so good and kind and loving, and he was so wronged. And that's part of it. There was so much injustice I could see happening around me as a child, and I was powerless. Like I said, I was powerless. So thanks for tuning into Whole Wellness, guys. That's my start to today, and hopefully I'll find out some good information about my car, and hopefully I'll figure out this next triggering thing and get it sorted out. So I hope you guys take care of yourselves. Thanks for tuning in. Till next time. Bye.